to you related to everything that's going on now in the real estate industry. Obviously, we're all very active in the community and in real estate investing, so we felt that it's important to make sure we can, keep everybody up to date of exactly what's going on. We're in a very interesting time right now. There's a lot of unfortunate things happening. There's a lot of unknown things that are still happening. So obviously, it's super important that everyone stays healthy, stays safe, stay with their families. But at the same time, we want to be positive. We want to be proactive, and we want to be opportunistic. So we're not really going to mention everything related to coronavirus or our views, opinions, and stuff like that. We're going to stick to real estate. We're going to stick to business. We're going to stick to finance. I've been in contact with a lot of local people, and the good part is real estate's open for business. Title companies are working. Real estate agents are working. Lenders, wholesalers, even auction buyers we know are working. So I'm bringing on Ian Horowitz, a friend of ours, and he's very actively investing, and he spends a lot of time on rental properties. Rentals is his thing, and I felt like that would be a good opportunity. I mean, our company personally owns a bunch of rental properties, and currently we haven't seen anything negative. We've talked to a few tenants, and they seem to be able to pay their rent. So far so good. But obviously things can change. Also, we have a lot of our stuff is Section 8 stuff as well. So as far as I'm concerned, a lot of those subsidized programs are still going to be releasing payments, but I'm going to leave that up to Ian to talk a little bit as well. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to chat. We see the chats coming down the right-hand side of our screen. And again, we're trying to do all these in real time because things are changing. Trump literally just had a press conference, and we were going to do this chat at 1:00, but he came on at 1, so we figured we'd push it to 2 just to be safe. But yeah, so here we go. If you have any questions, we'll go from there. So what's up, Ian?
What's up, Jay? I guess it's a little different. We're both at home, got the kids running around. Hopefully they don't pop in, or the wives or anything.
We're trying to manipulate our cameras so you don't see kids running in the background, but that's okay. I mean, everyone's at home for the most part. A lot of people are at home, but right now is a very interesting time in real estate, and I think it's important to stay positive and to stay optimistic, and obviously take care of your affairs as needed. But at the same time, I've noticed I've spent a lot of times chatting with a lot of real estate investors, agents, things like that, and also spent a lot of time, reading and kind of learning and expanding, because this could be a time that you want to be opportunistic. So, real quick, give us a quick background of what your portfolio currently looks like as of today.
So currently our portfolio as of today, we've grown to about 100 single family properties. We have quite a bit of commercial space, somewhere between 30 and 40,000 square feet. One of them is actually getting ready to sell. Actually, 2 are supposed to be selling next week. So hopefully, fingers crossed that the city remains open. Recently, we purchased a 34-unit building out in West Virginia, which I have some interesting stories about, whether we talk about it today or Wednesday. And we're in the process of buying a 76-unit apartment building. So we do have some big financial commitments, and we got a relatively diverse portfolio, and I think it will help us get us through this economic storm, winter, blizzard, whatever it may be.
Are you, as of today, are you proactively buying? With our opportunities, do you have comfort that it's safe to buy properties? Is it safe to, get leverage from banks and things like that?
Yeah, all the banks have been reaching out to us, just seeing what our immediate needs are. We do have an immediate need to refinance some properties, and everybody's open for lending. I did some doomsday prepping personally, and the bankers thought I was crazy, but you got to do what you got to do. But with that being said, all the banks have reached out, seeing what we need, where we need to go, what type of financing facilities we need. In response to actively buying properties, I think everybody, and now's a great time to review, see what happens with numbers, right? It's not immediately, the market's not immediately going to go away in real estate. Our real estate effects are probably going to be 12 to 18 months from now, right? That's when some of the fallouts, I apologize for the baby crying in the background. And I'm not ignoring her. Don't worry, my wife.
Ian's not my end.
But 12 to 18 months from now, is probably when we're going to see some more fallout. That's, when, like I just was watching. I don't mean to get too far off topic. You can stop me, but I was just watching the press conference, and Ben Carson came out and said, holding off on foreclosures and evictions. And the question is, how are people going to recoup from that? How long does it, how long do they keep extending that? And that's where we're going to see the difference. So to go back to your original questions, absolutely. Keep looking at the market. It should be a good gut check for a lot of people to hopefully underwrite a little more cautiously. The building that we're actively buying is was under contract well before this happened, and we're still happy to buy it, and we still believe there's a value add to happen inside of that. So it's I think it's a great opportunity to get out there and take a look at the market and potentially find deals to buy.
So what's your thoughts on rental properties? Because you own a lot of rental properties, and I think some people that may own a property or two or want to buy a rental property or two are a little bit nervous related to if their tenants are able to pay rent. I know a lot of your renters are subsidized. Go through that a little bit. Like if you had any issues with tenants reaching out to you, your your normal tenants or subsidized ones.
So there's a few things here. One, Ben Carson just came out from HUD and said that everything's moving forward with all public housing authorities, all housing choice voucher programs. Vouchers are still being issued. While your local PHA might be shut down, specifically here in Baltimore, they've made some amendments. Business as usual, payments should be expected. Now, when it comes to the tenants paying their portion or tenants who are market tenants, look, every market's going to provide you with an opportunity potentially to come out and say, oh, I can't pay rent because of X, Y, and Z. Our tenant's going to use this and say, hey, they can't evict me for 60 days, so I'm going to skate on my rent for 60 days and then deal with it down the line and try to push it. Sure, people like that. But in the end, most people are good-hearted, honest people, and they don't want to lose their house. That property in West Virginia we just bought, it's 34 units. I think 12 of the people that currently, 12 to 15, so about half of our building currently that reside there, work for the casino, and the casino shut down. Now there's massive talks of bailouts and people paying unemployment and everything else. I think there's going to be a little hiccup. I think everybody's going to have to deal with something. We're all being affected by it. But in the end, I think it's rental real estate. People have to pay. People need places to live no matter what the market is. And I'm not trying to be uncompassionate about it, but I don't think there's a need to panic. Are you going to get rent increases? Is there going to be a dip in the market? Are you going to have to get a little more competitive to lease up vacant units for a short period of time? Probably. Are many tenants going to be moving with the unstable economic future or what they believe to be? Probably, And another part that you brought up in your question about how do you feel about your I'm waving to your daughter back there. But to go back to rental properties and the rate of return and things like that is that, rental real estate is a great alternative asset, right? Whether it's single family, multifamily, commercial, whatever asset class you're in, it's an alternative to the market. So those of you that are buying like super high end, like super conservative rates of return, you're actually doing better than the market, right? So let's just hypothetically say you're only getting an 8% rate of return on your property that you bought. Well, that's exponentially greater than what the market's done in this short period of time. So having that nice flat line or that nice uptick in your rent and your rate of return is worth exponentially more right now. Sure, are we missing out on those huge 20, 30, 40% gains that were happening? But they're all wiped out. And I'm not a big stock guy. Would I have sold all my stocks when all this happened? Probably not. I mean, you do a little more stocks than I do. How do you feel?
So I'm going to tell a story that I told yesterday that I've told to every single person I've talked to about real estate in general. So when you invest in an asset in general, you invest in an asset at the price that you want to buy them, that you're comfortable in. And if you're into this thing, the best part about rentals right now fix and flips is a little bit different. We can talk about that in a second. But the best part about rentals right now is they're long-term plays. So you could buy a property for $100,000 today that works for you. Tomorrow it could be worth $90,000 or $80,000, and it doesn't really matter, because until you buy or sell or trade that property, whatever the case is, it's just a fake number. Equity is a fake number until you trying to resell it, right? So if the numbers work, they work. And I've been listening to a lot of CNBC analysts and mostly, market driven Wall Street guys. But one guy was talking about Marriott. He's like, of course I'm going to buy the Marriott stock right now. It's in the hospitality industry. Yes, it's getting killed right now, but I would have dreamed to buy Marriott at the price I can buy it at today. The PE ratio is great. The dividend's great, although a lot of those stocks seem to be stopping dividends to investors. But besides the play, he's getting it at the number that he wanted to get it at. Yes, it might be worth less tomorrow, and maybe he even looks like a fool short term. But at the end of the day, he's investing in a good business, and the longevity of the business that has good bones, and knowing that it's going to increase over time. And it's the same thing with real estate. If the numbers work, they work. I've seen a lot of uncertainty out there right now, consumer confidence. We had two properties that, one property that was active that we were selling, and the guy walked out. He backed out, the day of closing. That was unfortunate, and that happened. It was fine. He forgoes his deposit. We put it right back on the market, and, it was what it was. He was a little bit nervous on the deal. So I'm not going to, whatever, that's fine. At the same time, we have some properties, one of our rental properties that we just renovated, and that's on the market right now. And I've been in touch with the real estate agent every day, and we're getting showings. We've had open houses. We've had a lot of showings going on. There's been a lot of activities, and we ratified a contract today for it. And the interest rates. I'm going to mute yours for a second. I just muted you for a second. But the interest rates are low right now for them, and they locked in. So it made sense. So I don't know. I understand that people are a little bit nervous about real estate in general, but the way I look at it is just like any asset that I invest in, as long as the numbers make sense to me and it's a longer term play, I think it works. I mean, that's why we're continuing to lend. There's been a lot of shakeup right now with secondary market note buyers. A lot of institutional Wall Street backed hard money lenders are pretty much going to be out of the game or close to it. We've always used our own private capital with these deals, and it's going to pay off because we have the flexibility to make the deals work. And yes, I caught myself quoting a loan yesterday of 160 that a week ago I might have quoted 170. But each asset is individual. Every loan we do, every property Ian buys, every flip, investment, any real estate investor buys. You base it off of what you believe today's value is.
And I think that goes back to like your whole conversation kind of ties back into, going back to the stock analogy, right? Like, and I'm not a big stock guy, but we both read Warren Buffett's book. In the end, it's about a core essential business. Do you believe in the business? Is it going to be there forever, right? Like you're betting on the American economy. So to relate that back to real estate, it's just like with your loans or rental real estate that we deal with is that, if you're buying something that you believe is good value, that's going to be there for a while, you understand either the borrower or you understand the market, you understand where the market's going, you understand what the potential is or what it looks like 10 years from now, potentially. I think you're okay to go out and look at properties and keep buying and, be able to push on as long as you know what you're doing. It comes back to your strategic, I don't want to use like keywords that all the big guys use, but it's like a strategic business plan. Does it meet your metrics, right? Like we only buy stuff, that fits into our business model. And now is a time that really makes you go back and gut check and say, are my business model techniques sound? One thing I think a lot of people are going to look at in this coming out of this is liquidity, right? Like how much liquidity do you need on hand? I know me and you have talked about it a lot. Me and my business partner, Dan, talk about it a lot is what's the right liquidity. But like a situation like this where there's a potential pause on the world for 60 days, what is the right liquidity?
and liquidity in the banking system, if it's hard to get loans for some of these projects in general, that could affect it. But like, we don't really have a huge banking financial problem like we did in 2008 right now.
Correct.
And don't get me wrong, like I think there's uncertainty. I also believe that a lot of this is going to be somewhat short-lived, over the next few months. And unfortunately, and again, we're not going to try to get away from real estate because everyone has their own opinions on that. But, there's a lot of different business models that are in very unfortunate times right now. But I think real estate in general, I think residential real estate right now, besides residential real estate and cash, those seem to be some of the best places to keep money right now. And, I think if you're, I guess I'll use the word ballsy enough to invest in the market, I think you could potentially see some really good opportunities. I can't do it. I'd like to, and I've wanted to dabble some money into it. But I think.
Well, I think we should all be diversified, right? But again, we don't know it well enough. Like, your one buddy Brad, that I think he runs a financial type firm. He talks to me. It's like Spanish to me. Like, yeah, I understand what a stock is, but it's hard for me to wrap my mind around. And, sure, is my exposure in real estate a lot more? Is your exposure in real estate a lot more? Are we properly diversified? Probably not. But in a time like this, we have the comfort of knowing that I truly understand what my rental property is going to do. I truly understand what it's going to produce. I truly understand how to get in and out of assets when we're in a troubled time. So I think that's worth a lot more than being in the market and then just watching things disappear. And not being able to understand where your money is or where it's appeared to,
What other advice do you have to people that have a rental portfolio right now related to, best practices with tenants or making rents, safety, securing properties that are currently up for rent, things like that. Stuff that I could be, our portfolio is only about 14, 15 units. So the way that we react is very different. Like, I can do one-off conversations with people and make a decision on one-off. You have a much bigger portfolio. Like, what are things that, you've considered that I wouldn't even think about?
Well, I think now is number one. This is just a safety tip in general. We never put for rent signs out front, especially in a time like this where, maybe not now, but a few months down the line, if there's some pushback and there's some foreclosure and stuff like that, people hopping in houses and camping out and being vagrants. So we don't put for rent signs out front of any of our properties. Simply Safe is a very good product to use to secure your properties. They got everything from wireless cameras, smoke detectors, and alarm systems that you don't need to have Wi-Fi in the house to operate. With that being said, another tactic recently that we were using to reduce turnover costs in general is crediting people's rent. If they're getting ready to move out and they're teeter-tottering on moving out to a new unit, especially now with uncertainty, now's a great time to potentially credit a half month's rent, or 2 months, a half month's to a month's worth of rent spread out over 2 months. You're reducing turnover costs, you're reducing vacant time, you're reducing your fee potentially or commission to place a new tenant. And I think that goes a very long way to keep your portfolio occupied. Necessarily wouldn't be big on rental reductions. However, everybody should feel and understand what their portfolio is, and who your good tenants and bad tenants are. So there's a potential that you might not want to hit your rental increases immediately or enforce them. You may want to back them off a little bit. I think the name of the game during this market is to keep your portfolio occupied. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're anything from war zones to multi-million-dollar houses or Airbnbs, right? Like our one buddy Pete, I think he's an Airbnb guy, and he's got cancellations left and right. So the question is, can you drop that down? And I think an idea for Airbnbs is self-quarantine your family, drop them rates down to $30-$40 a night, get that mortgage covered or whatever your operating expense. You're cheaper than hotels, and utilize it as self-quarantine places for people. again, it's all about occupancy and being able to consistently produce cash and stay afloat during these times if you're having issues.
Okay, good points. Good points. I like your idea about not putting for rent signs out there. I was somewhat a little bit nervous about that with some of our active listings that we have as well, for sale signs and things like that. But yeah, no, it's a good point, because the thing that's interesting right now is everything's day to day. And I don't want to go too in depth about some conversations that I've had with title companies and actual title insurers, because I think I'm going to save that until Wednesday. Just so you know, Wednesday, March 25th at 2 p.m., we're going to do one of these exact same setups, but there's going to be about 4 or 5 of us on it in different industries, as well as we have maybe like 10 other people in the queue that are going to call in at a certain time. And then everyone can ask questions. We have 500 seats available for the meetup group. It's a virtual meetup group, obviously, but it's March 25th at 1:30 p.m. If you go to hardmoneybankers.com/meetup group, you can check it out that way. I think you can also go to hardmoneybankers.com/March 25th. I don't know if that brings you right to the Zoom link or not, but we're doing it through Zoom. And the reason we're doing it through Zoom is because we can all interactively chat, and everyone will obviously stay on mute and with their cameras off. But if they have a question, we can bring them live onto this. So we're trying to do some of these on a regular basis as things change. I mean, if Trump came out today and said, "Hey, everyone's on full lockdown," things could change a little bit, right? Because then, stuff would be a little bit more difficult. But for the most part, deals are still getting done. A lot of real estate agents are doing virtual tours for their clients. People are still buying stuff. I know the auctions are still getting done online. Most places locally can record online, so that's easy enough. One of the things with some of these title companies I've talked to is, it seems like, I don't know if you've heard this yet, Ian, or not, but they're doing electronic signing and DocuSigns, and there's a third-party notary involved in that process as well. So there's a buyer, a seller, and a notary. They're all at their own houses or own offices, and they're digitally doing it and everything. And every county except Montgomery, PG, and Baltimore City will accept those certified e-filings.
Right.
And those 3 counties that will not, what's happening is the title company just prints them out and then just mails them, and they sit in in order to get recorded.
We should reach out to Blake, see him comment, and he's down in Florida. I'd be interested to hear from him. He's a mobile notary and does a lot of title work, and see, maybe we can get him on the call on Wednesday and see what's the action nationwide. Because I think nowadays it was going this way anyway, but I think this whole thing has accelerated a lot of things. I mean, you're talking, they don't even have toll collectors anymore, right? But I think remote online notary, Blake's saying. So maybe he can jump on if we don't have anybody to talk about that. But I think what this has done is it's really fast forwarded everybody, and it's almost brought the whole nation together as one, and being able to jump online and do these types of things. And it kind of gives you a better barometer to what's going on across the country, and understanding what's happening across the country. And I think, honestly, it might make availability for people to invest in assets a little more remotely by doing these things. I'd be interested to see what happens, honestly.
Well, I think this is a very interesting process for all types of businesses, not just real estate. How, including employees, virtual they're figuring out ways. And I saw the founder of Zoom, I think, made like $2 billion in the last week or something like that. Went up in value like $2 billion because everyone's doing that. We're on a software called Be Live right now because there's some kind of fun interactive tools, and it's just like one person or 2 people works great. But we use Zoom for a lot of stuff. Our internal meetings that we do with our team, with mastermind groups that I'm involved in, and we're obviously doing Zoom on March 25th. But just as a whole, it's going to be interesting how real estate's conducted. But I think, to sum up a lot of this stuff, I think that obviously, do your own due diligence, be aware. Real estate was really good for a long period of time, and I believe that it'll continue to be good. There's always good opportunities. We were lending in 2007 when we started, and there wasn't many lenders out there, but we were doing it then, and we're going to continue to lend because every deal is a deal, right? Everything's a deal. I think if somebody's out there and they're trying to do stuff on mass volume, I think it might be a little bit challenging. But if you're like most real estate investors that want to buy a flip here and there, a few rental properties here and there, lend some money here and there, buy some auctions, some wholesales, whatever, I think it's very doable. I think it's very doable. And, in general, the real estate market doesn't want to get shut down. And we're going to talk about this on Wednesday as well, but one of the things I talked to with this title insurer related to how it seems like there could be a lot more fraud involved, by doing stuff remote and stuff like that. And they're like, well, I think at this point, that's a price they want to pay, knowing that that's a risk related to it. If not, they'd have to shut down everything, and then they couldn't write new insurance policies, title insurance policies, and things like that. So there's so much on the hook on this. And listen, if stuff gets completely shut down because everyone believes it's necessary for safety, then it gets shut down, and we adapt to that. But I always like to be as opportunistic and proactive as I can, right? And there's a lot of unfortunate things that are happening out there, and hopefully everyone's doing their goodwill to help people in need and things like that. But at the same time, you can look on the bright side. You can be a Debbie Downer and sit at home and think that the world's blowing up, and that's fine. But you can have that opinion, or you can be out there scouting for new opportunities and things like that. So
yeah,
whatever your personality type is, but like I've spent a lot more time listening to audiobooks and podcasts. Like usually, that's usually like a 1 hour activity during my day in general. And I've been spending multiple hours doing that. And I think a lot of the positive, proactive, leaders have the same feeling. It's, let's make the most out of this.
Yeah, not to get too far off topic from real estate, but a friend of ours or an acquaintance of ours, Greg Pilati, he has a super high-end furniture company, and I just saw the other day that he was shutting down. And I felt compelled, and he's doing like big conference tables for your big apartment buildings and wherever. I mean, beautiful stuff. But I felt compelled to jump on there and be like, hey, man, look on the other side of this. Now's a great time to reload the bullets, start planning for the other side of this. And when we're on the other side, hit the ground running, right? Like, this is a great time, especially if you are one of the people that is a W-2 employee, or you're in a job where you get to telework every day and you're spending more time home with kids. Like, look at your lifestyle. Like, is it a positive that you get this lifestyle now? Are you enjoying to be home more? Can you take the time now that you can telework, get your keystrokes in, and then go and plan out the business that you've always wanted to do, whether it's real estate or anything else. Like, now is a great time, especially the other thing is everybody's on pause. So it's almost like leveled out the playing field in a sense that it's not like I got this great idea and everybody else is already doing it. Or if I mention it, it's like, well, nobody can do it right now because the world's more or less on pause. So
that's right.
I think it's a great opportunity, and it's a great chance to come out there and hit the ground running and go. I mean, it's really made me think, I think I want to move to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Let's go. I mean, I don't think they had any cases. Our one buddy Vadim was there. He was sending pictures. Like, nobody's talking about it. I was like, oh, that's where we need to go. But anyway, long story short, it's a great opportunity. And
yeah, no, exactly. All right. We're going to stay on for a few more minutes if you have any questions.
I'm trying to get Blake to jump on.
Now's the time to comment. I think I get a third person on here. I'm not sure.
I was trying to get Blake to jump on, but he didn't respond. I think he's out actually doing mobile closings as we speak. What do you I know you got to do all the interview questions, but I think a big piece of news that came out, and I don't know that we'll get to discuss it on Wednesday, is that Pier Street, one of the big Wall Street backed lenders, and I don't mean to hey Amanda, what's up? Is that they've actually stopped lending. And I think your business model provides you with a super major competitive advantage. I don't know if you want to share or if you're going to save it for Wednesday, but that is and how you're able to hit the ground running.
Well, I think they stopped buying notes on the secondary market from other lenders if they were I don't know if they do direct consumer lending, or when I say consumer lending, direct to the actual real estate investor. I don't know if they do that or not, because they have a few sides of their business. But yeah, I mean, I've just seen over the last day or two on Facebook that so many buyers of these hard money notes, have stopped buying because they're uncertainty. So money in general, if you want to get capital for these deals, you're looking for a private lender yourself, and there's still a lot of private lenders out there that want to deploy money in real estate. I mean, we've had conversations with a lot of our private capital investors that we work with, and most of them are on board with real estate's a strong asset. Every deal is its own deal, right? So they're good solid investments as a lender. So it's going to a hard money lender, and a real hard money lender that's not obviously bank or institutional backed, that's using private capital of their own money, a private lender, or I'm guessing local banks are still going to be involved. And I got to reach out to Scott Freitag and ask him, because he's a good part of this group, and we'll get him on as well. But I'm guessing that his bank, they might cut back, but that's okay. Like, you can't fault a bank to want to cut back their LTV. Let's say they're at 70 LTV, they want to cut back to 60 LTV. It's the same thing as you as a buyer. You might cut back and buy a property for 10% less. So it's part of it. Having skin and cash in the game is the game. I mean, a bank does not want to own your property or anybody's property. Like, that's, if they want to buy the property, they buy it themselves. Like, they want to do a good loan to the right person. So yeah, we could talk about the Pier Streets of the world at a later date. I can go on and on related. I can go on and on related to that. I'm trying to keep this focused on rentals, because a lot of people want to be involved in rentals right now. And I guess, and you could give a little bit better advice to me, but I guess on the front end, in my opinion, it's, make sure you have your kind of capital involved on the front end. In a hard money lender, our company lends money all the time to real estate investors that buy rentals. Typically, it makes more sense short term, where they come in and they acquire it and fix it up and get stabilized, and they get longer term debt. But I'm assuming that those longer term debt pieces for rental properties are going to continue to exist. Maybe the interest rates differ and they go up based on risk, if that's what, but there's still a good need for that. I mean, if you're a lender and you can deploy capital in a good real estate asset at a 70 LTV, whatever the case is, to a good client, someone like Ian, who's got has good rental rates coming in, and debt service coverage rates might change as well, but all in all, like, real estate's a good asset class to be in, and lenders are going to continue to want to be in with the right people.
Well, and I think, like you said earlier, is that, like, and again, this goes back to, if you want to get involved in buying rental real estate, is to have cash involved in the deal, because it actually lowers everybody's risk per se, right? And it goes back to, liquidity and equity, or however you want to put it, and not to be over leveraged, right? Like, everybody wants to do the Burr method, get all your money back. Sure, there's ways to do it. But being fully leveraged out, is that a better position to be in? We don't know. I mean, we don't know where this market's going to take us. And it's just something that you should factor in, that if you do have capital in the game, it actually it actually kind of diversifies your risk a little more. Because you have a lower LTV, you have a lower mortgage payment, you can drop your rental rates potentially lower than I could, because I'm fully leveraged versus the other person that's only 50% leverage, right? So there are competitive market advantages to doing that. And again, it comes back to what's your rate of return on your capital that's outstanding. And again, here's another thing that I was just thinking about, is that, the assets that you're buying is key as well, right? If you're buying Class C assets, who gets hit first? The service provider. The service workers are the ones that were laid off first, right? And it's your business model. I'm not saying what's right or wrong. Sure, Amazon's still open, and Walmart and those types of places, but how many other places are closed? How many constructions basically shut down for a lot of people? It's kind of scary if, depending where your workers are coming from and what type of property you have, versus if you're moving up in asset classes, or what your asset class is, who's your worker, or who's your ideal tenant, and what does that look like in this time, or what did it look like in 2008 when everything went haywire? Who was still working, and where do those people want to live? And maybe that's the asset class that you can't tolerate this type of uncertainty. I think we have, I literally have a pretty big stomach, but we got pretty big stomachs for this type of thing that, if things go sideways, we can handle those types of tenants. And we can handle these types of situations where we might be exposed a little bit longer than other people.
Sure.
So just remember that when you're buying properties and looking at them,
All right, so let's sum a few things up, because we've been on for about 35 minutes. We're gonna call it quits, but let's just sum up a few things if someone was tuning in a little bit late related to what we were talking about. So obviously we're in very unfortunate times right now, and everything is kind of like day to day. The whole focus of this conversation was real estate oriented in general. Real estate as of today is still completely up and running. Yes, there's some uncertainties related to timeframes and things that make it maybe a little bit more difficult, but like real estate agents are buying and selling houses, lenders are lending, title companies are closing deals mostly remotely, but they're still getting done. Real estate's a big industry. Like, no one wants to crash the industry. And as of now, all the banks have liquidity and are still lending a lot. So because of that, that's going to stay strong. And yes, the interest rates are still low. So, if you're a buyer, let's say you flip a house to a homeowner, they buy a property today for $100,000 at whatever their 3.5%, 4% interest rate. That's similar to, let's say interest rates go up in a year and they're 6%. Then they buy that same exact house for $80,000 and their payment ends up equal to the same. Like, homeowners know that interest rates are cheap and this might not last forever, so they still want to buy houses. So that's good news for real estate flippers. Do I think the market is going to short-term spike a little bit? Yeah, I think it is. I don't think it's going to be huge or drastic. I think it's going to decrease a little bit, and that's okay. As long as you have that prepared up front. So if you do a flip, obviously plan that it could depreciate in value from now to when you flip it. So buy it accordingly, buy it at the numbers accordingly. And if you're buying rentals, make sure the numbers work if the property goes back down and stays down for a while before it comes right back up, because it's all rental rate wise. So all of that stuff's important.
Yeah, I would say the major recap to me is when you look at rental real estate at times like this, our graph looks straight line, right? From the time we bought them till now, we're consistently just going up very, very little bit with rent increases, but expenses are following that. So our rate of return, is just gradually growing. And in a time like this, when the market goes up and then comes back down severely, that we prefer that nice flat line curve and consistency. And that's what rental real estate's providing for us as an alternative to the stock market. And hopefully Wednesday, I don't know if you have a house flipper on. I know you definitely have Terry coming on. I really want to hear from him in regards to how he's going to handle the 60 days of no foreclosures, because he buys a lot of foreclosure auction type stuff. I don't know if you got Jimmy or Mike Schock or somebody jumping on the line. That's a house flipper. I think you got the one lady from DC that does it. I'd really be interested to hear what their thoughts on the market going forward. So, and I think you do have some other people that do interesting types of rental real estate jumping online too, which will be pretty cool to hear from.
Exactly. I need to figure out, I gotta remember what this link is right quick, and I'm gonna put this up here. Hang on.
So he's trying to find the link, but again, just, now's a great time to get involved, take a look, see what's going on. If you're getting your $1,000 check from Mr. Old Uncle Donald Trump, it would be a great way to take that money. And if you can afford it, utilize it, go out and buy a list, start marketing, start understanding what's going on, and get involved and, take advantage. And also a great time, shameless plug while we're at it. Jason has a new book out. Definitely take a check at it. Ours is out there too, landlordinglife.com.
I can put a link to that. All right,
did you find the link for the meetup?
Yeah, I found the link. So that's that. Wednesday, March 25th, virtual meetup group. I put that group out that we had 500 people. We had seats for 500 people. And the guy emailed me back. He goes, 500 people. You're only allowed to have 10 people together at a time. I was like, it's not an in-person group. This is a virtual meetup, and we're going to continue to do virtual meetup groups. It's important to get good content out there. I mean, someone might think this is an exaggeration, but like, I literally look at 30 to 40 deals every day from real estate investors that want loans on some of these things. So I see what's out there, and I'm talking to a lot of agents and title companies and investors and flippers, and like I like to stay up to date of like what's going on. So this is a good means to share this with everybody. But that meetup group coming up was going to be a good one, and that's where we're at. So again, stay safe, stay healthy, and in your free time, make sure to stay optimistic and opportunistic at the same time, because there's opportunities out there. So, all right, well, Ian, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. We've had a few hiccups with some kids in the background, and we'll continue to, but that's all part of it. And it was fun. And if anyone has any questions, Terry's turn on Ian right now, but if anyone has any questions, reach out. You can email me directly at jason@harmonybankers.com, or also that link that I put on there. That's the meetup group, and we're going to have fun. All right?
You need to get to Wednesday so I can pick on Terry, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks.
All right, guys. Take care.
Bye. Are we still live?
I don't know if we're still live.